We always thought the galaxy wanted to understand us. We were wrong. It wanted to study us like something wild dragged in from the rain, shaking, curious, dangerous. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It will help us to grow more. Let's continue. The shuttle drifted into the station's docking ring like a bead of glass sliding through light. Beyond the viewport, the Galactic Academy of the Accord hung suspended above the blue-white clouds of Ithis Prime, a structure so vast it had its own weather. Towers of silver reached into the void, encircled by ribbons of luminescent energy, shimmering like auroras trapped in orbit. Lieutenant Mara Holt pressed her palm to the viewport. Her breath fogged the glass. "So this is it," she murmured. "The heart of civilization." Her pilot, a three-eyed Zirathi, gave a soft mechanical chuckle. "Heart, perhaps, but not warmth. Be careful what you expect, human." Mara's lips twitched. "Expectations are how we survive." The alien only hummed. "Here, expectations are how you offend." The docking bay opened with a hiss of sterilizing light. Mara stepped onto the platform, her boots clanging softly against the metallic floor. Rows of alien students turned to watch, tall, thin, multi-eyed, crystalline, some floating on anti-grav fields. They stared with quiet fascination, their expressions unreadable. A voice echoed across the bay. "Lieutenant Holt of Earth?" She turned. A figure approached, tall and graceful, skin like liquid glass refracting color. His eyes glowed faintly, pupils vertical and calm. "I am Instructor Veyran, liaison for foreign entrants. You are the first of your kind to be accepted. Do you understand the significance?" "I do," Mara said, steady but cautious. "And the risk?" "Good," he said. "Then let us begin with humility." Orientation was a blur of data. Holograms, translation links, and protocols so strict they made her military training feel casual. The academy was less a school and more a cathedral of intellect. Each race had its own philosophies. The crystalline tar devoted to logic, the insectoid psyker who worshipped pattern, the fluidic yis who measured time in emotionless frequencies. Humans, by contrast, had been admitted reluctantly, a gesture of inclusion more than respect. Mara could feel it in every glance. She was an experiment wearing a uniform. That night, in her private quarters, a sterile cube overlooking the planet's storms, she recorded her first log. Day 1. Everyone watches me like I'm about to break something. Maybe I am. They say emotion clouds judgment. I think judgment without emotion is blind. Let's see which of us is right. Classes began in earnest the next rotation. Subjects ranged from temporal ethics to post-conflict reconstruction theory, disciplines that blurred philosophy, physics, and governance. Mara's first class was cognitive harmony, led by instructor Veyran himself. "The Accord was founded," he began, "after the Great Dissonance. Hundreds of species nearly destroyed themselves, pursuing conflicting definitions of morality. Here, we learn the only universal truth, that emotion is unreliable, and reason must prevail." He turned to her. "Lieutenant Holt, would you agree?" Mara felt 100 alien eyes on her. She straightened. "Emotion isn't the enemy of reason. It's what gives it purpose." A low murmur spread across the hall, dissonant tones like glass vibrating. Veyran's voice remained calm. "Purpose is an illusion created by chemical bias. You are speaking as if the universe cares." "It doesn't," Mara said quietly. "But we do, and that's enough." The silence that followed felt like a vacuum. Then Veyran inclined his head slightly. "An interesting flaw." Word spread quickly. The human argued with an instructor. By the end of the first cycle, she was both famous and isolated. Some species admired her audacity, others saw it as proof of humanity's primitive nature. No one invited her to communal meditation. She ate alone. studied alone, and watched the others share in a harmony she could never touch. Then, one evening while crossing the atmospheric bridge between towers, she heard the sound, faint, melodic, human. She followed it to a balcony overlooking the planet below. There, a small alien, no taller than her chest, with silken tendrils and soft violet eyes, hummed to itself while shaping strands of light into floating symbols. When it noticed her, it froze. "I'm sorry," Mara said gently. "I didn't mean to interrupt." The alien's tendrils rippled nervously. "You are the human, the emotional one." "That's me," she said, smiling faintly. "And you?" "I am Thira, of the Yes," it said, bowing slightly. "I study harmonic cognition." Mara tilted her head. "You were singing." Thira hesitated. "It is not song, it is resonance modeling." "Sounded like music to me." The alien blinked slowly. "Music?" Mara sat beside it, careful not to crowd. "Where I'm from, we use sound to share feelings, to remember, to heal." Thira tilted its head, curious. "Feelings are dangerous." "Yeah," Mara said softly, "but they're also what make danger worth surviving." Thira's eyes flickered. "That is paradox." "Welcome to humanity." Over the next few cycles, Mara and Thira spoke often. She taught it fragments of earth music, humming simple tunes, explaining lyrics, telling stories. Thira, in turn, taught her how E's minds could shape resonance into energy, using emotionless precision. One night, as they watched the storm swirl across Ithis Prime, Thira asked, "Do you ever wish your kind were quieter inside?" Mara smiled sadly. "Sometimes, but if we were quiet, we'd never change anything." It thought for a while. "Perhaps that is why your species was invited." Mara frowned. "Invited?" Thira's tendrils dimmed. "There are whispers. The Council did not choose you to learn. They chose you to be measured." "Measured how?" Thira's eyes shifted uneasily. "They say emotion is the last obstacle to perfect order, and that if your kind can be contained or cured—" Mara's breath caught. "Cured?" Thira looked away. "They believe peace will finally be complete." That night, Mara didn't record her log. She just stared out the window at the endless clouds below, her reflection faint against the stars. For the first time since she'd arrived, she felt truly alone. Cured, not studied, not understood, erased. The next day she confronted Veyron after class. "You knew," she said, voice low. "You knew I was brought here as an experiment." The instructor regarded her calmly. "Your presence offers valuable insight into primitive cognition." "Primitive?" she snapped. "You think compassion is primitive?" "I think it is unstable," he said. "Unreliable. Dangerous." "Then maybe danger is what your order needs." Something flickered across his crystalline face. Not anger, but something sharper. Fear. He stepped closer. "Be careful, human. You do not yet understand the weight of what you bring." Mara met his gaze, unflinching. "Maybe it's time you did." Later, in her quarters, alarms blared. She rushed to the window and froze. One of the Academy's outer rings was on fire, a containment breach, plasma leaking into the atmosphere like burning blood. Emergency drones swarmed, but the breach spread faster than expected. Through her comlink, she heard Veyron's calm, ordered voice. "Evacuation Protocol Theta 9. Do not approach the breach." But she could see Thira's life signature, trapped near the blast zone. Her heart pounded. Logic screamed to stay. Training said run. But humanity had never listened to either. She grabbed her suit and ran into the storm. The breach site was chaos. Alarms wailing, air thick with metallic smoke. Radiation filters flickered. Mara forced open the emergency hatch and saw Thira pinned beneath a collapsed conduit, plasma arcing inches away. "Mara," it gasped. "You shouldn't—" "Yeah," she grunted, prying the beam loose. I get that a lot. She dragged it free, shielding it from the heat with her body. The suit's alarms shrieked, integrity failing, but she didn't stop until they were both inside a decompression chamber. The doors sealed. Her vision swam. Mara, Thera whispered, tendrils trembling. Why risk yourself? You could have died. She smiled weakly. Guess I'm still primitive. When she woke in the infirmary, the room was dim. Her burns were treated, her lungs stabilized. Veyron stood at the foot of her bed. You violated containment orders, he said. I saved a life, she rasped. He paused, and risked hundreds. Mara met his gaze. That's what we do. We risk everything for one another. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, softly, perhaps that is why you were sent here. She blinked. What? He turned away. To remind us of what we buried. The next day, when Mara walked into class, no one looked at her with disdain. Some stood as she entered. Even the crystalline tar bowed their heads slightly, a gesture of respect. Thera sat near the front, its bioluminescent tendrils glowing faintly. When it saw her, it whispered, You changed something. Mara smiled faintly. Maybe. Or maybe they just realized I'm hard to cure. But far above, in the Academy's administrative core, the Council of Reason watched her holographic record. She is unpredictable, one said. She is dangerous, said another. The Arbiter's eyes glowed, and yet she inspires unity. Silence followed. Finally, the Arbiter spoke. Continue the experiment. Mara's recovery took 5 rotations. Her burns healed fast thanks to alien biogel treatments, but the stairs didn't. Everywhere she went, eyes followed her, cautious, analytical, some even reverent. The alien students whispered when she passed. The instructors spoke her name in the tone used for anomalies. Only Instructor Veyron remained unchanged. You have become a symbol, he said when she returned to class. Symbols attract danger. Maybe that's what they're for, Mara replied. To show someone what danger looks like, and that it's worth facing. He tilted his head slightly, crystalline light reflecting off his skin. You misunderstand, Lieutenant. Danger is not always external. She frowned. Meaning? Meaning, he said softly, that the Council now watches you with both curiosity and fear. By the next rotation, the Council summoned her. The chamber was enormous. 9 glowing figures seated around a levitating platform, their forms fluid and ever-shifting. The air was thick with sterile energy. Lieutenant Holt of Earth, the central figure spoke, voice both male and female at once. You acted against protocol and risked contamination during the incident. Mara stood straight. Yes, but I saved a life. Thera's alive because you chose emotion over reason, interrupted another voice. You disobeyed orders. You endangered others. I made a choice that mattered, she shot back. If that's a crime here, then maybe you should ask yourselves what you're protecting. The room went silent. The Council's light dimmed slightly, like a collective blink. Then the Arbiter's voice spoke, calm but cold. You have demonstrated unpredictability. This warrants study. Mara's jaw tightened. You're not studying me anymore. I'm not your lab rat. The Arbiter tilted its head. We study all things, even that which resists study. Yeah, Mara muttered. That's called tyranny, where I come from. After that, life changed again, subtly but completely. She was assigned a cognitive liaison, a translator named Ril Von, a being of folded light and sound. It followed her everywhere, recording her interactions, offering guidance in emotion management. When she laughed, it asked why. When she frowned, it asked what triggered that neural pattern. When she grew silent, it hovered closer, humming like a thought she couldn't shut off. Even Thera began to distance itself, not out of fear, out of guilt. They watch everything now, Thira whispered one night in the corridor. They say you're contagious. Mara's throat tightened. What? Am I spreading feelings now? It's not that, Thira said softly. It's that others have started questioning. Good, Mara said. Questions mean thinking. Not here, Thira said. Here, questions mean infection. One evening Mara walked the upper observation ring, staring down at the lightning-charged clouds of Ithis Prime. The silence was oppressive, her reflection ghostly in the glass. Then she noticed a shadow moving behind her. Rilvon, of course. "Can you not stalk me for 10 minutes?" she muttered. "Observation is essential," it replied, voice gentle but mechanical. "Your actions influence the emotional equilibrium of the campus." "Then maybe your equilibrium's too fragile," Mara snapped. "Ever think of that?" Rilvon paused. "Fragility is a human trait. You mistake instability for strength." She turned to face it. "And you mistake control for peace." For a moment, something flickered across the light being's form, almost like uncertainty. Then it dimmed and drifted away without a word. Mara exhaled slowly. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from restraint. Weeks passed. The academy grew colder around her. She was still allowed to study, but the tone of every lecture had shifted. In cognitive harmony, her name was used as an example of contradictory behavior. In ethics of accordance, emotion was classified as a pathogenic anomaly. And in the cafeteria, seats beside her stayed empty. Thira tried to meet her eyes once. The look it gave her was apology wrapped in terror. But isolation never stopped humanity before. Mara started keeping 2 logs, the official one, reviewed by Rilvon, and the hidden one, stored in a coded sequence disguised as sound waves in her music files. Private log. Day 54. They think they can contain what they don't understand. The problem is, emotion spreads faster than logic. You can't quarantine hope. That hope came quietly one night, during a lesson on temporal governance. Veyran was lecturing about predictive stability models, how societies could mathematically prevent rebellion. A perfect system. A system with no surprises. Mara raised her hand. "What if the prediction's wrong?" "It cannot be," Veyran replied. "The models account for all known variables." "What about unknown ones?" she pressed. "Like love." The word seemed to hang in the air like a volatile chemical. A dozen students tilted their heads in confusion. One crystalline tar spoke up. "Love? Is that the human infection that causes irrational attachment?" Mara smiled faintly. "That's one way to put it." "And this attachment," the tar continued, "it overrides self-preservation." "Sometimes," she said softly. "It's why I saved Thira." The room went still. Even Veyran hesitated. "Then love," he said finally, "is a malfunction." Mara met his eyes. "No, it's the reboot." After class, a group of younger students approached her quietly in the corridor. "You said love?" one of them asked. "A seeker, its many eyes blinking asynchronously." "You mean the connection without logic?" Mara nodded. "Exactly that. But that breaks harmony." "Maybe harmony's overrated," she said. "Sometimes friction makes the best music." They didn't laugh, but they listened, and that was enough. Within a few rotations, the human paradox started to spread. Students whispered about emotion mapping, about how feeling might improve efficiency, not destroy it. They began experimenting, controlled empathy exercises, simulated compassion, even curiosity about humor. The council noticed. So did Rilvon. "Mara Holt," it said one morning, voice unusually tense, "you have initiated an unauthorized ideological cascade." She stared at it. "What? You mean talking?" "Your influence is destabilizing the cognitive equilibrium of 72 subjects." She grinned faintly. 72's a good start." That night, she found a message waiting in her console. No sender ID. Encrypted through an ancient Earth-style Morse pattern. Do not trust Veyran. The council prepares an excision. Her stomach sank. Excision, a term she'd heard only once before. It meant removal of dangerous anomalies from the Accord network, permanently. She tapped into the Academy's open channels, tracing hidden frequencies. Dozens of encrypted communications flashed past, all flagged Project Equinox. She decrypted one. Subject Holt demonstrates progressive contamination effect. Initiate isolation protocol before emotional resonance reaches Class 4 contagion status. She leaned back, pulse racing. They weren't studying her anymore. They were preparing to erase her. The next morning, Veyran called her to his office. The walls glowed faintly with soft, crystalline light, reflecting his unreadable face. "You've become quite the catalyst," he said calmly. "Students are diverging." "Thinking," she corrected. "That's called thinking." "Disruption, then." She crossed her arms. "You knew what they were planning, didn't you?" His expression didn't change. "The Council believes you threaten equilibrium. And you?" "I believe equilibrium without compassion is extinction delayed." That made her pause. "You... what?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The Accord was built to end war, but it also ended wonder. We traded chaos for silence. I no longer know which was worse." Mara stared. "Then help me." "I already am," he said. "But you must leave." "Leave? I can't even access a shuttle without 10 clearance codes." "I will provide them. Tonight, at moonrise." "Why?" she whispered. "Why risk everything for me?" Veyran's eyes glowed faintly, a shimmer of fractured color. "Because once, long ago, we had emotions too." That night, Mara packed what little she had. Her uniform, a few data pads, and the small harmonizer Thira had given her. But before she could leave, the door to her quarters opened. Rilvon floated in, glowing brighter than ever. "You were warned," it said, "and still you persist. Get out of my way," Mara growled. "You misunderstand," it said. "I am not your jailer. I am your friend." That stopped her. Friend. "I have observed you longer than any other entity, and though I cannot feel, I have learned the pattern of what it means to care." Mara hesitated. "Then prove it. Help me." Rilvon's light pulsed. "Follow me." They moved through service tunnels beneath the Academy, old, disused corridors filled with faint echoes of machinery. The lights flickered with every pulse of the planet's magnetosphere. Rilvon stopped before a sealed hatch. "Beyond this lies the outer transit ring. From there, you can reach the civilian shuttles." "What about you?" she asked. "I will delay pursuit." "Why?" It dimmed slightly. "Because I wish to understand why you risk everything for others." She smiled faintly. "Then you've already learned." She turned to open the hatch, but before she could, alarms screamed. A voice thundered through the station. "Subject Holt detected. Execute excision protocol." The corridor lights turned crimson. Rilvon's glow flared. "Go!" Mara sprinted through the tunnel as drones descended, their stun beams slicing the air behind her. Sparks showered. She dove, rolled, fired her emergency beacon, a pulse that overloaded the drone's sensors. Rilvon's form flickered violently. "Run, Mara!" She reached the outer hatch, slammed her hand on the release. It refused to open. She turned back. Veyran stood there. "Come with me," she gasped. "You said—" "I did," he said quietly, stepping closer. "But the Council has decided I cannot protect you anymore." "Then help me fight them." His face softened, for the first time, truly softened. "That is what I fear you will do too well." He reached out, and the world flashed white. Mara woke to silence. Her wrists were bound in restraint fields. The air smelled of ozone and antiseptic light. She was in a containment pod, transparent walls, glowing runes, and above her the silhouettes of the Council. The Arbiter's voice echoed, "You are too dangerous to remain." Dangerous because I care? She rasped. Because you make others want to. She struggled against the restraints. You can't cure empathy. Perhaps not, said the Arbiter, but we can excise the source. The energy field brightened, humming like an approaching storm. Mara closed her eyes, and then, faintly, she heard it. Music. Soft, trembling, distant. Thira's voice echoing through the comm systems, the song she'd taught it. Every monitor flickered, every light pulsed with resonance. The Academy's energy network, alive with sound. Harmony is not silence, Thira's voice said. It is difference in tune. The energy field wavered. Mara smiled, tears burning her eyes. Guess the infection spread. She tore one hand free, grabbed the stabilizer and overloaded the field. The pod exploded in a shockwave of sound and light. When the smoke cleared, the containment chamber was shattered, and Mara Holt was gone. The storm outside the Academy raged like the planet itself had begun to feel again. Mara staggered through the wreckage of the containment dome, lungs burning. The sky above split open with violet lightning. Shards of shattered crystal rained down, and for the first time since arriving, she could smell the world. Ozone, dust, life. It felt raw, chaotic, real. "Thira!" she shouted over the wind. Static crackled in her comlink. Then, "Mara, you're alive!" "Barely," she said, grinning despite herself. "You started a revolution with a lullaby." "It was not a lullaby," Thira replied. "It was hope." Overhead, lights flared in the clouds, ships descending, the Council's enforcement fleet. "We don't have much time," she said. "Meet me in the North Transit Ring, and Thira, bring anyone who still remembers how to feel." The Academy was chaos. Students ran through the halls, some terrified, others exhilarated. The sterile silence of the Accord had shattered. Screens across the campus flickered between emergency warnings and fragments of human music. Laughter, cries, and symphonies humanity had sent as cultural samples. The sound was infectious. Rilvon appeared beside Mara, flickering from damaged projection emitters. "You escaped containment," it said. "Thanks for noticing," Mara replied. "The Council has lost control of the resonance fields. Emotive frequencies are destabilizing the network." "Then help me finish what we started." It pulsed uncertainly. "You intend to destroy the Accord?" "No," Mara said. "I'm going to wake it up." They reached the cognitive core, the heart of the Academy's neural lattice. The chamber glowed like a frozen sun, crystalline data streams flowing through conduits into a central pillar of light. "This is where they suppress everything," Mara said, "where they silence memory, emotion, dissent." Rilvon hesitated. "If you alter the core, the Accord will collapse. Millions could lose coherence." Mara looked at the trembling glow before her. "Then they'll have to learn coherence, the hard way, the human way." She reached for the panel, but Veyron stepped from the shadows. "You always find the heart of the storm," he said quietly. Mara froze. "You tried to kill me. I tried to contain you," he said, "but I see now that containment was never possible. You are the echo of everything we lost. Then help me." He looked up at the pulsing core. "You do not understand what you're about to unleash. The Accord's mind spans 1,000 worlds. If its harmony fails—" "It's not harmony," she cut him off. "It's numbness." For the first time, Veyron's voice trembled. "And what will you replace it with? Rage? Sorrow? War?" "Choice," Mara said. "Real peace isn't silence. It's the space between screams." The words hung there like an awakening. Then he stepped aside. Mara pressed her hand against the core interface. Her pulse synced with the rhythm of the light, and the entire network hummed, as if tasting her thoughts. Her memories flooded outward, childhood laughter, the rush of rain on metal rooftops, her mother's voice saying, "Be kind even when it hurts." Every image, every feeling rippled through the core. The Accord screamed, not in pain, in awakening. Light exploded across the station, and 1 billion connected minds suddenly felt. On distant worlds, beings froze mid-task as emotion hit them like sunlight through glass. A crystalline worker on Rith collapsed, weeping at the beauty of its first sunrise. A hive mind on Zhao stopped transmitting orders and started asking questions. Even the Council, the Eternal Watchers, cried out as their perfect unity fractured into something far more alive. Mara fell to her knees, gasping. The core dimmed, pulsing slower now, like a heartbeat learning to breathe. Veyran caught her before she fell. "You've changed everything," she smiled weakly. "About time someone did." But Rilvon's glow flickered violently. "Alert! Accord fleet en route. They will purge the entire station to prevent contagion." "How long?" Mara asked. 3 minutes. Veyran turned toward the control matrix. "There's one way to stop them. A transmission. A resonance field amplified through the core. It could reach every ship before they strike." Mara nodded. "Do it." He hesitated. "It must be emotional. It must mean something." Mara looked at him, then at Rilvon, and slowly she began to hum. A single note, low, trembling, filled the air. Rilvon caught the frequency, amplified it, modulated it into light. Thira's voice joined in through the comm, then dozens more, students across the academy, all singing, all feeling. The core flared, flooding the planet's magnetosphere with living resonance. Across the fleet, crews froze as the wave hit. Memories, sensations, grief, wonder. The order to fire never came. Hours later, silence returned, but it was not the old silence. It was peace. Mara stood with Veyran on the observation deck, looking out at the rising dawn. The planet was quiet, scarred, but alive. "What happens now?" she asked softly. "Now," he said, "we begin to feel, to fail, to forgive." "And the accord?" He looked distant. "It will fracture, perhaps, or it will evolve. Either way, it will live." Rilvon floated beside them, its glow softer than before. "Lieutenant Holt, I believe I now understand. Love." Mara smiled. "Told you it was contagious." Before she left the academy, Thira met her one last time. "You're leaving," it said, voice trembling with emotion. "I have to," Mara said. "Earth's going to have questions when they hear about this. They will not understand. They don't have to. Just knowing others out here feel, that's enough." Thira touched her hand, a gesture it had learned from her. "Thank you, Mara Holt of Earth. You infected the stars." She laughed softly. "Guess I did." The human shuttle rose through Ithis Prime's clouds, cutting through the violet dawn. Mara looked down one last time at the academy she'd changed forever, and whispered, "Maybe this is what the universe needed all along. Not perfection, just someone willing to care." Centuries later, alien historians would call it the Resonance Dawn. The day emotion returned to the galaxy, and at its heart, one name would always echo: Mara Holt, the human who taught the Accord how to feel.